I remember that morning so clearly, as if time itself never dared to move past it. The air smelled of lilacs and damp soil. The curtains danced lightly in the wind, and my wedding dress hung by the window, glowing like a ghost in the pale sunlight. I was 21, trembling with hope. Every heartbeat whispered his name, Thomas. In just a few hours, I would walk down the aisle and finally become Mrs. Lydia Moore. At least, that's what I believed. What I didn't know was that, on that same morning, the man I loved was already gone, and that his disappearance would take my entire future with him. Mama woke me before dawn. Her hands were soft and warm as she brushed my hair, whispering prayers while the kettle boiled. She kept smiling, though her eyes were wet. Fathers cry in silence, mothers cry with their hands. The kitchen smelled of bread and coffee. Everything looked ordinary, except for the feeling that something, somehow, was not right. My father came in wearing his old suit. He tried to sound firm, but his voice cracked. "You chose a good man, Lydia, a man who keeps his word." I nodded, too shy to speak, because Thomas always kept his word, at least, until that day. The little church sat on top of a hill, white paint peeling from its walls. The whole town had gathered: the butcher, the schoolteacher, even Mrs. Green, who never liked anyone. They all came to see the girl from Maple Street marry the boy from the carpenter's house. But when I arrived, the first thing I noticed was the silence. The groom's side of the pews was almost empty. His best man, his uncle, a cousin, all missing. I thought maybe there had been a delay, maybe a broken car, maybe anything. The organist kept glancing at the door. So did I. 1 hour passed. Then another, and by the third hour, even the priest had stopped pretending everything was fine. He gently closed his Bible and said, "Perhaps we should reschedule, my dear." I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled, because sometimes, when your heart shatters in public, all you can do is pretend you're not bleeding. Days turned into weeks. No one heard from him. No letters, no phone calls, not even a rumor. The police said he hadn't boarded any bus leaving town. His co-workers said he'd resigned from his job 2 days before the wedding. He'd sold his car, emptied his bank account, and vanished. My mother told me to forget him. "Men like that," she said, "leave ashes behind, not memories." But I couldn't forget. Every corner of our house still whispered his name. The chair he once sat in, the cup he used when he came for supper, even the path by the garden. His footprints lingered after the rain. I stopped eating, stopped talking. I wasn't living. I was waiting. For an explanation. For a ghost. For closure. 3 months later, a letter arrived. The envelope had no return address. Inside, just a single page, and a few smudged words. "He didn't run from you. He was running from something he couldn't defeat. A friend." I read it again and again, my heart pounding. What did that mean? Had he been in trouble? Sick? Hiding from someone? The next morning, I packed my things and left home for the first time in my life. I took the earliest train north, where the letter had been postmarked. Mama cried, begging me not to go. But I had to. I couldn't live another day without knowing the truth. It was winter. The train smelled of smoke and rust. Outside, the countryside rolled past. Frozen fields, broken fences, miles of silence. I held his photograph in my hand the entire trip. The picture was faded, but his eyes still looked alive, kind, certain. I whispered to it, "Why, Thomas, why didn't you come back?" The train stopped in a coastal town called Brenton, a place where the ocean never rested. I spent days walking from door to door, the boarding houses, the clinics, the docks. Everyone I asked shook their heads, until one nurse, an older woman with tired eyes, said softly, "Yes, I remember him. He was very ill. Tuberculosis, I believe. He didn't want anyone to find him." My heart froze. "Is he still here?" I asked. She hesitated, then looked away. "No, dear, he passed a few weeks ago." She gave me a small wooden box. Inside were his watch, his Bible, and a sealed envelope with my name written in shaky letters. I sat on a bench outside the clinic and opened it, my fingers trembling. "My dearest Lydia, if you're reading this, it means I've failed to keep my promise, not of love, but of presence. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I was dying. The doctor told me the truth weeks before our wedding. I couldn't bear to see your eyes full of pity. I wanted you to remember me strong, not coughing blood in a hospital bed. Forgive me for running away. I thought I was saving you from pain, but I see now, I only gave you another kind of pain. If there's mercy in heaven, I'll wait for you there. Yours always, Thomas. The paper smelled faintly of medicine and sea salt. And just like that, everything I thought I knew about that day changed. He hadn't abandoned me. He had loved me enough to die alone. I stayed in that town for 3 days. Every night, I walked to the cemetery behind the chapel, where a row of wooden crosses stood under the pine trees. None had names, just numbers. I never knew which one was his. So I sat by all of them, and I talked. I told him about the dress Mama had sewn, the daisies I carried, how long I had waited by the altar. I told him that I hated him, and then that I didn't, that I forgave him, and that I never would, and that I loved him still. When I returned home, I was not the same girl who had left. The laughter in me was gone, replaced by a quietness that people mistook for strength. Years passed. I found work at a small library. The smell of old paper became my comfort. Each book a world I could step into when the real one felt too cruel. I never married. Men came and went. Kind men, patient men, but my heart had already chosen, long ago. Love like that doesn't come twice. Mama grew old and left this world quietly one morning. When I packed her things, I found the newspaper from my wedding day, still folded and yellowed. The headline read, "Local bride left waiting at the altar." Someone had drawn a heart around it. I don't know if she did that out of love or regret. 50 years later, I returned to Brenton. The clinic was gone, replaced by apartments. The chapel still stood, though its roof had caved in, and moss covered the stones. I brought fresh daisies. I didn't know where exactly to place them, so I scattered them along the row of graves. The ocean was calm that day, rare for Brenton. I could almost hear his voice in the wind. I whispered, "I'm not angry anymore. Thomas, you kept your promise in the only way you could. You loved me, and that's enough." The waves crashed gently, as if answering. People ask me why I never remarried. I tell them it's because I already lived a whole lifetime in that single moment, the day he vanished. Love isn't about how long it lasts. It's about how deeply it stays with you. And though he disappeared, he never truly left. Every morning when I wake up and see the sunlight touch my window, I feel him there, quiet, steady, eternal. The world may remember me as the bride who was left behind, but I know better. I was the woman he loved enough to protect from watching him die. And in a strange, painful way, that was love, too. So, to whoever is listening, if you ever find yourself waiting for someone who doesn't come back, know that not every disappearance is betrayal. Sometimes it's mercy wearing the mask of loss. And sometimes, the greatest love story of all is the one that never had an ending.